think it was our doctor organised some counselling in fairly soon after Sam died, really, because we were both in such a state.
I spiralled very quickly down into massive hole of depression.
I was going through all the court proceedings while I was pregnant or got a young child, and it did affect me relationship with my son, like the bonding of us, you know, that I was scared to love him in case he died.
I drank for a few months as well. I was quite often in the bottom of a Bacardi bottle or a vodka bottle.
You didn't know what was going on at all from day to day, minute to minute.
I'd go to the off licence and buy myself the strongest liquor I could to try and drink myself into oblivion, so I didn't have to feel what I was feeling and go through what I was going through.
It was easier to not love him than it was to love him, because if I'd loved him and I lost him, it could have been so much more painful.
I think one thing that's apparent from the difficulty in finding the right people to see us is that there's a desperate lack of that kind of counsellor or psychiatric help available.
No day is the same anymore, you know, and we sort of, especially at Christmases and birthdays, you know, we just want to sort of get them over.
I mean, I don't send Christmas cards anymore, and I haven't sent any since Sam was killed.
Just before Christmas, the first Christmas, I asked my granddaughter, as I say, what she wanted from Santa, and she said a big long ladder so that Daddy could be here, could climb down from the sky and be here. And that just broke my heart. It just did something to me.
Affects us every day. I mean, every day we think about him.
Every day I still talk about him. Every day it's in my head.
Every birthday, every Christmas, every Mother's Day, Father's Day.
Our grandson was 15. He was about to start his GCSEs. He never went back to school. For the first few weeks, he sat in his dad's car wearing his dad's clothes,
Playing his dad's music.
Cut himself off from everything, and we didn't know how to help him.
We've got a wedding coming up, and the person who would have been the life and soul of that particular party isn't going to be there.
There's always that guilt, I find, you know, that even if we're enjoying ourselves, we feel guilty. Because, you know, there's a part of our family that's no longer there.
Joe's older brother's gone, you know, his best friend. He's got nobody to go out with like that, whereas at one time you always foresee that they go out together.
But it's funny, you know, you said, oh, even when we're enjoying ourselves, we don't really ever fully enjoy ourselves. No. Nothing is the same, you know, nothing. Whatever we do.
And I was just all on my own, and everyone kept talking about money, and I didn't want that. Wasn't the issue. I wanted justice, and I wanted to know if anybody else had been through this and what happened to them, and I wanted to speak to them, and because they're the people that know how I was feeling.
I think what you need is to have a focus and to feel that you once again have a purpose.
We decided that we wanted to help families really, because we knew how awful it was to go through these terrible things, both the inquest, the police investigation, the court conviction, all of them are awful things to have to go through and understand.
There was a gap in the support network, if you like.
We set up FACK. The founder members formed FACK and launched it in July 2006 at the Hazards Conference that year, which was in Manchester.
And it actually took off a lot better than we thought it was going to. It kind of snowballed.
It was launched at a conference of 500 safety reps, and then immediately we were thrown into lobbying around the Corporate Manslaughter Act, which involved going to London, lobbying MPs, meeting MPs, holding meetings in the Houses of Parliament.
So we just sort of hit the ground running, so to speak.
And of course more have joined since then.
It's like belonging to a club.
I think so.
The worst club in the world, but it's like you've all got this unity.
That we could just draw strength from one another and do something positive.
And without people like yourselves, we'll never get anything changed.
It gave us a national voice. We were all singing from the same hymn sheet.
FACKS done an awful lot in a very short space of time, I would say.
We're trying to get publicity for FACK generally and our aims and demands.
We're getting notice now. People are taking notice of individual stories.
It's about using people's individual stories to get the overall messages out there. We want to criminalise killing people at work or injuring them at work.
And that there should be something there that acts as a deterrent to make them sit up and think that they can't just carry on in the same way that they have been doing.
As a group and as individuals, we are lobbying our individual MPs, trying to get them to take this more seriously.
How dare they cheapen our families' lives, who they've killed? Because that's what they do by walking away. It's like they don't matter.
We're another statistic.
Yeah.
So FACK is very much about doing all of that and trying to give the families a voice at policy-making levels.
That if we're going to stop this carnage, we need to get the laws changed. We need to get a law that is going to hold directors wholly responsible for the well-being of their staff.
The new corporate manslaughter law came into force in April 2008. There were lots of flaws in it, and FACK immediately got involved in lobbying for amendments to try to improve it.
The corporate manslaughter law will not make any difference to any case until they actually bring it in where imprisonment is involved.
Financial penalty is never going to be an adequate penalty.
It's still just a fine, isn't it? Just a fine.
Looking at it, it's very, very difficult to get a conviction on a director of a large company.
We had always asked for, this is FACK, this is Hazards Campaigners, we had always wanted individual responsibility and accountability. And we wanted that because to make employers equal to other members of society.
It's not the company who takes the decisions, it's individuals who take the decisions, and it's individuals who need to be held to account.
Yes, and the penalty for taking a life should be a prison term. That's the only
Yes.
sufficient penalty for taking a life.
It's not vengeance or revenge, it's being held to account for your responsibilities.
At the moment, they can just wave a chequebook about, can't they?